All right, to Canada now. Well, last Wednesday, the ostriches at the Universal Ostrich Farm in British Columbia, Canada, were mostly alive. They were mostly healthy, although they were basically being starved and not being taken care of because they were being under the watch of the CFIA, but they were mostly alive. Some of them over 35 years old, happy, dancing, playing with the owners. Some of them are older than the owners themselves. Then the terrorist organization known as the CFIA moved in at nighttime, and they had already set up a barricade, of course, around of hay bales so people couldn't see what they were about to do, which was fire and kill these 400 ostriches, slaughter them. And then when daylight hit, you could see this. Dead bodies of hundreds of birds hidden under tarps all over this area. As journalist David Creighton put it in an article for the Blaze Media, he wrote, "Massacre at Universal Ostrich Farm. Canada kills hundreds of birds despite no evidence of avian flu. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency slaughtered hundreds of ostriches at the Edgewood, British Columbia Universal Ostrich Farm Thursday night using rifles. At least 2 marksmen believed to be working at the CFI's enforcement division unloaded hundreds of rounds into the birds beginning on Thursday evening." And by the way, while they're sifting through material, with all of that bloody material, they weren't wearing any sort of PPE costumes. Here's one individual. Here he was in there in the pen. If these birds were so damn dangerous, why is he not wearing any hazmat suits? Why is he not wearing any kind of PPE? No masks, nothing. Because they know it was all a lie. Because they were no threat to anybody, and they just had to save face. David Creighton joins us now. He writes at creightonsrightnews.com. And he wrote that article in The Blaze from Ottawa, Canada. David joins us now. And David, it looks like, it was awful. It was an awful weekend just seeing these images of these birds being slaughtered, the tears of the owners of the farm. So it's been an awful, awful weekend. Now that some of this has settled a little bit, the farmers are resolved to fight back. But the CFIA is not stopping, are they? They're not just stopping with this one farm.
Which is what you had warned.
No, and they're not stopping. They're going after other farms who could potentially be part of their abuse. And I can't tell you how incredible this was. Thursday evening, Friday morning, I was getting information by the minute from people who were on the scene telling me that these ostriches were being shot, and they weren't just being shot, they were being killed, and so many were not surviving the gunshots. And so there were many, many of these ostriches killed the morning after that were beheaded by the CFIA people. And it is absolutely horrendous what is happening to this farm, because this is all about destroying this farm, leaving it with nothing except graveland. And if you look at this farm today, there's nothing left. They've taken these ostriches away. And by the way, I have to say this, we have been following the march of the ostriches ever since. They're ending up apparently in Surrey, BC, at a place that they obviously had planned about. And we are going to find out what happens to these ostriches after this, because they don't want, again, this is all about not taking test samples of these ostriches. The last thing the family fed said was, we want evidence. We want evidence of what happened to these ostriches. They're not allowing them that. We are going to ensure that they do that. We are watching and waiting to find out where the remains of these ostriches remain. Because believe me, this is a government conspiracy. We don't like to use that word conspiracy, but this is a government conspiracy between the federal government, the RCMP, the FCIA, and the provincial government of BC at this point, where these ostriches are ending up. And we are going to find out. We are going to report that, and we are going to make sure that people know that how their tax dollars were spent. to get rid of healthy ostriches who should never have been killed in the first place.
Now, the problem is, I mean, many, but one of them is that because the government can just do this and no Supreme Court stopped them without any proof of necessity, that they can keep going into, I mean, most people don't eat ostriches, but where are they going to go next? Into the food source, right? And so there have been reports of other farms saying, oh, we're starting to get letters from the CFIA now. Tell us about how that now, the ball's rolling down the hill.
The very idea that the government can annihilate ostriches or chickens or cows or whatever is on your private property has begun about 12 years ago under the previous conservative government. And this is why we have to stop this right now. And Pierre Poilievre, as the leader of the official opposition, has to stand up and say, this is unacceptable. We have to fight back against this because this policy is no longer viable, realizable. And even the World Health Organization, as I've said repeatedly, has backed away from the stamping out policy of killing every last bird, every last piece of cattle, everything, because it might have been affected at one time. This is insanity. We have to back away from the policy. And this is why I think Katie, as harmed as she has been, as the spokeswoman from this farm, she needs to continue to fight against what is going on here, which is we are going to continue to kill every last animal. And it's going to drive the price of eggs, the price of meat, the price of everything up, because this is an insanity policy, and we have to keep fighting back on this. And as hard as that is right now for Katie, fighting this out, because I know she wanted to be on the show tonight, but she just can't do it right now. It's been so hard for her. And so I think that's where her mission in the future lies, is so that this doesn't happen again. This can't be allowed to again. We have to keep fighting back on this.
Yeah, and it's not even about the ostriches, right? It is about the government overreach. And so many of our viewers who've written to us and who've watched the show and said, we were praying and praying and praying, and then when it was all lost, they were so devastated. And it's horrible to watch. It's not just about the birds, though. It's about the massive government overreach and lying, gaslighting the Canadian people, failure to do the tests on the animals, which could have solved this all for everybody. It could have led to a study of herd immunity and how all these animals were totally healthy, but they can't do that because they have to save face for their own tyranny. And I just fear, and I've seen a lot of people saying, the Canadian government is not going to stop with just these ostriches, as you pointed out, that there could be a human culling. That the Canadian government has obviously become very demonic in its move towards this MAID program and the assisted suicides in the country. Like, this is I almost say it's like a demonic government at play here. Transhumanist government.
It's an absolutely demonic government, because who's next in terms of where the government's after? What if your pet exhibits signs of avian influenza? And I put my pet on this affects me very deeply. I said, you're not going to get my black cat, because they're going after black cats now in Vancouver. And I said, you're not going to get my black cat, because I love that black cat. And I am not going to let you do that. But that's where these people are at. They are literally trying to go after animals that they think are somehow part of their problem. And it's their problem. They have created this mess, not the homeowners, not the pet owners. And this is how bad this has become. And if the Canadian government is no longer a government of the people. It ceased to be that a long time ago. It's the government of the globalists. It's the government of Mark Carney and the people he makes money off of. And we are going to stop this. We are going to fight back in a big way.
David.
Well, let me just ask you, all of these hashtags that I see now is justice for the ostriches, but we tried that. They went all the way to the court. What possibly could be done? Like litigation? Like who is there to appeal to? You went all the way to Donald Trump, who is not an official of your country. So what does that mean?
We need Pierre Poilievre as the leader of the official opposition to take this issue seriously. He has not taken this issue seriously because the stamping out policy, as I learned today, was initiated by Stephen Harper of the previous Conservative government. No wonder they're not taking this seriously. Time to wake up to the present. Time to wake up to here and now. And Pierre Poilievre, time to wake up to your Conservative followers across Canada who expect better of you. And he's not doing that. So who do we appeal to? The Conservative Party of Canada, Poilievre, Pierre Poilievre as the Conservative Party of leader and the official opposition leader. Yeah, we've got to appeal to these people. Who do we appeal to? Justice and right. I had Tamara Leach on my program earlier today. She delineated the absolute incredible similarity between what was going on with the truckers, with people who were concerned about losing their freedom during that revolt, that revolt in terms of Canadians saying enough. It's the same thing that's happening right now at a farm in Edgewood, BC. They are losing their freedom, and when they lose their freedom, all Canadians are losing their freedom of speech, their freedom of assembly, and their freedom to own their own damn property. We're losing that in Canada. I can't say that enough. Canada, as we've heard so often from this show, Canada is cooked unless we fight back in a way that means business with this goddamn liberal government, which is out to get us.
Yeah, and is winning. So I don't want to end it there, but I mean, it feels so hopeless at this point, and we're so close to the tragedy having happened within the last week, and it's so upsetting. But thank you for being on this story and not letting it go. It actually, what's upsetting, even further upsetting, it's all upsetting, is all of the press it got after the birds were already killed. Like there were those of us who were trying to scream our heads off about it. And then now that other people see it, they realize, and I wish that we could have screamed a little bit louder, but what can be done now? There's no going back. So thank you for bringing us your context. As always, we're sorry that this is so personally upsetting, but we appreciate the passion always. David Creighton from Canada joining us today. Thank you so much.
Well, Natalie, and we love you, what you're doing here. Thank you so much for having me on today. And we love your show. And so many people tell me that every time that I appear on this show. Thank you for doing what you do on Redacted, because we love your show. And Clayton and Natalie, we love you so much. Thank you.